The Great Crystal Hall on Velthara Prime had never seen so many angry aliens in one place. Representatives from 400 different worlds filled the massive space. Some floated in the air like jellyfish, others crawled on the walls with their many legs. A few looked almost like humans, but with strange colors or extra arms. The noise was terrible. Clicking, whistling, roaring, and sounds that no human ear could understand. Ambassador Krikstal stood at the center podium. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that changed colors when he got excited. Right now his skin was bright red, which meant he was very angry. He had been the one to call this emergency meeting of the Galactic Assembly. Friends and fellow beings, Krikstal began, his voice coming through translators in hundreds of different languages. We are here today because of a great threat to our way of life. A threat that comes from a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy. The crowd grew quiet. Many of them knew what was coming. I speak, of course, of Earth, of the humans. A wave of angry sounds filled the hall. Some aliens hissed. Others made clicking noises. A few just screamed. Krikstal raised all 4 of his hands for silence. Let me tell you what these humans have done. In the past 5 years, they have broken 17 trade agreements. They have ignored 43 territorial boundaries. They have built colonies where they had no right to build them. A squid-like creature named Vorth floated forward. Its tentacles waved in the air as it spoke. Tell them about the medicine incident, Vorth said through its translator. Krikstal's skin turned an even deeper red. Ah yes, the medicine incident. 3 months ago, the humans discovered that the Zeltan people were dying from a terrible disease. Did they ask permission to help? Did they go through proper channels? No. They simply showed up with a cure and gave it away for free. More angry sounds filled the hall. This was exactly the kind of thing that made the Galactic Assembly so upset with humans. They disrupted our entire medical trade system, added Gornix, a rock-like being from the Outer Rim. We had a perfectly good system where the Zeltan would buy medicine from us at high prices for the next 50 years. Now they are healthy and free. Ambassador Krikstal nodded. This is exactly the problem. Humans do not understand how things work in civilized space. They see a problem and they fix it. They do not ask who is making money from that problem. They do not care about our trade systems or our laws or our careful balance of power. A tall, thin alien with too many eyes stood up. This was Senator Krix from the Commerce Guild. Just last week they gave farming technology to 12 different worlds. 12. These worlds will now grow their own food instead of buying it from us. Do they understand how much money they have cost us? And the worst part, Krikstal continued, is that they seem to think they are helping. They actually believe that making people healthy and fed and happy is more important than following rules. The crowd erupted again. The idea was so strange to most of them that they could barely understand it. Elder Zeph, an ancient creature that looked like a walking tree, spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. In my 300 years of life, I have never seen such chaos. Humans have terraformed dead worlds without filing a single form. They have established trade routes that ignore all traditional boundaries. They have shared their technology with anyone who asks for it, sometimes with people who do not even ask, added Krikstal. They just show up and start helping. A small furry creature named Pip squeaked from near the floor. What about the Great Barrier incident? They destroyed a perfectly good war between the Klaxon Empire and the Nadari Republic. How did they do that? Asked someone from the back. They sent negotiators, Pip replied. Professional mediators who actually listened to both sides and found a solution that made everyone happy. The war had been going on for 60 years. Think of all the weapons sales we lost. Krikstal's skin was now so red it was almost purple. This brings us to why we are here today. The humans must be stopped. Their chaotic helpfulness is destroying everything we have built. Our trade systems, our political structures, our carefully maintained conflicts. All of it is falling apart because humans keep making things better. The hall fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Therefore, Krikstal announced, I propose that the Galactic Assembly formally declare war on the human species. We must stop them before they help anyone else. The vote was quick and unanimous. 400 species agreed that humanity was too dangerous to be left alone. They were helping too many people, fixing too many problems, and generally making the galaxy a better place to live. This could not be allowed to continue. As the meeting ended and the aliens began to leave, they were already making plans. They would gather their fleets. They would prepare their weapons. They would show these humans that there were consequences for being too helpful. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Kim Jun sat in his favorite coffee shop in Seoul. He was reading the morning news on his tablet and drinking his third cup of coffee. The biggest story of the day was about a new trade agreement with the Rigelian Confederacy. It seemed the Rigelians really liked human coffee and were willing to trade rare metals for it. The second biggest story was about a group of human doctors who had volunteered to help with a plague on a distant world. They had developed a cure in just 2 weeks and were sharing it freely with anyone who needed it. Kim Jun smiled as he read. He was proud to be human. His people were always trying to help others, always looking for ways to make the universe a better place. It never occurred to him that anyone might see this as a problem. He finished his coffee and checked his watch. He was meeting his daughter for lunch in an hour. After that, he planned to visit his elderly neighbor, who had been feeling lonely lately. Small acts of kindness, he believed, were what made life worth living. At that moment, 400 alien species were declaring war on everything Kim Jun stood for. But he had no way of knowing this. He was just a man having coffee, thinking about helping his neighbor, completely unaware that his species' greatest crime was caring too much about others. The war declaration would take 3 days to reach Earth through official channels. By then, humans would have probably helped a dozen more species, solved a few more problems, and made the galaxy an even better place to live. And they would continue to have no idea why anyone would think this was wrong. 3 days after the Galactic Assembly made their big decision, the official war message finally reached Earth. It arrived at the Global Communications Hub in Geneva, Switzerland. This was where Earth received all messages from space. Most of the time, it was just trade requests or friendly greetings from alien worlds. Dr. Park Yuna was working the night shift that Tuesday. She was a small woman with thick glasses who had been studying alien languages for 15 years. Her job was to translate and file all the messages that came in during the night hours. It was usually quiet work. At 2:30 in the morning, her computer made a loud beeping sound. A new message had arrived, and it was marked as Priority 1 Official Government Business. Dr. Park put down her cup of instant noodles and opened the file. The message came with a small transport pod that materialized in the receiving bay. Out of the pod floated Vorth, the jellyfish-like alien who had been chosen to deliver the war declaration in person. Vorth had expected to arrive to sirens and panic. Instead, he found one tired woman eating noodles. "Greetings, human," Vorth said through his translator device. "I am Vorth of the Galactic Assembly. I come bearing a message of the utmost importance." Dr. Park looked up from her computer screen. "Hello," she said politely. "Please state your business and provide any necessary documentation." Vorth was confused. This was not how he had imagined this moment would go. "I bring a formal declaration of war from 400 species against your entire planet." "I see," Dr. Park said. She took another bite of her noodles. "Do you have the proper forms filled out?" "Forms?" Vorth's translator seemed to struggle with his confusion. "Yes, forms. For official government business, we need Form 27B for interplanetary communications, Form 15C for military declarations, and Form 8A for formal complaints." "Do you have these filled out?" Vorth's tentacles wiggled frantically. "I have the official declaration. It is 847 pages long. It lists all of your crimes against galactic order." Dr. Park held out her hand. "May I see it, please?" Vorth handed her a crystal device that contained the entire declaration. Dr. Park plugged it into her computer and began to read. She read slowly and carefully, taking notes as she went. Every few minutes she would eat another bite of noodles or sip her coffee. "This is quite detailed," she said after the first hour. "I see here that we are accused of unauthorized assistance to developing civilizations. That would fall under the Department of Alien Relations. Are you not terrified?" Vorth asked. "Do you not understand? 400 species want to destroy your world." Dr. Park looked at him over her glasses. "Sir, I appreciate that this is important to you, but I am just a translator. I do not make policy decisions. I just process paperwork." By 4 a.m., Dr. Park had finished reading the entire declaration. She made careful notes about which government departments would need to handle each complaint. Some would go to the Department of Trade. Others would go to the Department of Space Exploration. A few would need to go to the President's office. "Well," she said finally, "this is certainly comprehensive. I will make sure it gets to the right people." The right people? Vorth was floating in small circles, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. Yes. The Department of Alien Relations opens at 9 gone a.m. They will review your declaration and send it to the appropriate committees. You should have an official response within 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. Forth's voice rose so high that his translator started making squeaking sounds. Government processes take time, Dr. Park explained patiently. Would you like some coffee while you wait? Or I could call you a taxi to a hotel. Forth decided to stay and wait for the day shift to arrive. Dr. Park made him a cup of coffee and went back to her other work. She had 3 trade agreements to review and a friendship treaty from the Centauri Republic to translate. At 7 a.m., Dr. Park's replacement arrived. This was Dr. Kim Daeho, a cheerful man who always brought pastries to share. He looked at the floating alien in the corner and the formal declaration on Dr. Park's desk. Busy night? He asked. Not too bad, Dr. Park replied. This gentleman brought a declaration of war from the Galactic Assembly. I have filed it with the proper departments. Dr. Kim looked at the document. 800 pages? That is very thorough. Are they upset about the medical aid we sent to the Zelthan system? Among other things, Dr. Park said. They seem unhappy that we keep helping people without asking permission first. Dr. Kim nodded. Bureaucracy can be difficult. Different cultures have different ways of doing things. He turned to Vorth. Would you like a croissant? They are very fresh. By 9 a.m., the day shift had fully taken over. The declaration of war was officially logged into the system and sent to the Department of Alien Relations. From there, it would go to a committee for review. The committee would then send recommendations to various other committees. Dr. Jung Minseo from the Department of Alien Relations received the file at 10:15 a.m. She read the summary that Dr. Park had prepared and shook her head. Another complaint about unauthorized assistance, she muttered. Do not they understand that helping people is just what humans do? She scheduled the declaration for review at the next monthly meeting of the Interspecies Relations Committee. That meeting was in 2 weeks. If they decided the matter was urgent, they might call an emergency session. Otherwise, it would be added to the regular agenda. Meanwhile, Vorth was still floating in the communications center, becoming more frustrated by the hour. Every human he spoke to was polite and helpful, but none of them seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation. Perhaps you could speak to someone higher up, he suggested to Dr. Kim. Certainly, Dr. Kim replied. Let me get you the number for the main office. They open at 10 a.m. When Vorth called the main office, he was put on hold for 20 minutes while listening to peaceful Earth music. When someone finally answered, they told him his call was very important to them and transferred him to another department. That department transferred him to another department, which transferred him to another department. By lunchtime, Vorth had spoken to 17 different humans, all of whom were very sorry that he was upset, but explained that his complaint needed to be handled through proper channels. Several of them offered him lunch. The declaration of war, meanwhile, was making its way slowly through the Earth government system. It was reviewed, categorized, copied, and filed. Each department that received it sent it to another department. Everyone agreed that it was a serious matter that needed careful consideration. While all this paperwork was being processed, life on Earth continued as normal. Captain Kim Jun had lunch with his daughter and then helped his elderly neighbor fix a broken window. Dr. Park went home and slept until evening. Dr. Kim shared his pastries with the alien visitor and explained how Earth's government worked. None of them knew that somewhere in space, 400 species were gathering their war fleets and preparing for battle. They were just people doing their jobs, helping their neighbors, and trying to make the day a little better for everyone around them. The great irony was completely lost on them. While aliens across the galaxy were declaring war on humanity for being too helpful, humans were continuing to be helpful to the very alien who had brought them the declaration of war. 2 weeks after the war declaration had been filed with Earth's government, the Galactic Assembly's combined war fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 50,000 ships from hundreds of different worlds stretched across space like a metal cloud. Admiral Zethkar commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Inevitable Victory. He was a proud warrior from the Dominion Empire, with thick armor-like skin and eyes that glowed red when he was excited. He had spent weeks planning this invasion, studying human military tactics and preparing for fierce resistance. His intelligence report said that humans were a warlike species. They had wars among themselves for thousands of years. They built powerful weapons and strong defenses. They never surrendered easily. Admiral Zethkar expected this to be the greatest battle of his long military career. The fleet moved slowly through the outer planets, sensors scanning for human defenses. They found nothing. No weapons platforms around Jupiter, no military bases on Mars, no defense fleets hiding behind the moon. It was almost too easy. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from a human vessel." Admiral Zethkar straightened in his command chair. "Put it on screen. Let us see what these warriors have to say." The screen flickered and showed a middle-aged human man with a friendly smile. He was sitting in what looked like the bridge of a cargo ship. Behind him, Admiral Zethkar could see crates and boxes stacked high. "Hello there," the human said cheerfully. "Welcome to the solar system. I am Captain Lee Hyun of the cargo vessel Lucky Dragon. Are you folks here for trade or tourism?" Admiral Zethkar stared at the screen. This was not what he had expected. "Trade or tourism?" he repeated. "Well, sure," Captain Lee replied. "We get all kinds of visitors here. The Rigelians love our coffee. The Centauri folks come for the art museums. And everyone wants to see the Jupiter light shows. Really beautiful this time of year." The Admiral's glowing eyes grew brighter. "Do you not see our fleet? Do you not understand what this means?" Captain Lee looked thoughtful. "Well, it is a pretty big fleet. Are you folks planning some kind of event? A parade, maybe? We could clear some traffic lanes for you if you need them. We are here to wage war upon your species," Admiral Zethkar finally shouted. Captain Lee's expression changed to one of genuine concern. "Oh, that is a shame. Did somebody upset you? Maybe we can work this out. I have some excellent coffee here, and my wife packed extra sandwiches. Food always helps when people are having disagreements." Admiral Zethkar turned to his communications officer. "Turn off the transmission," he ordered. "Sir," the officer replied. "The human is still talking." On the screen, Captain Lee was indeed still talking. "I tell you what, why do not I give you the contact information for our Department of Alien Relations? They are much better at handling these kinds of problems than I am. Really nice people. Dr. Jung is particularly helpful." The Admiral rubbed his forehead with one large hand. This is not how invasions are supposed to work. For the next 3 days, the alien fleet held position at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Zethkar kept expecting some kind of response from Earth's military. Surely they would send warships to fight. At the very least, they would surrender. Instead, human cargo ships kept flying past the fleet like nothing unusual was happening. Some of them even waved. A few stopped to offer directions to tourist attractions. On the second day, a human ship called Happy Wanderer pulled alongside the flagship. The captain, an elderly woman named Han Masuk, hailed them on the radio. "Excuse me," she said politely, "but you have been sitting here for 2 days. Are you having engine trouble? My grandson is pretty good with mechanical problems. He could take a look if you like." Admiral Zethkar's tactical officer, an insect-like creature named Scrix, looked up from his station. "Sir, should we fire on her?" "Fire on a grandmother offering to help with engine repairs?" the Admiral asked. "What kind of monsters do you think we are?" Captain Han was still talking. "Also, I notice you have not had any supply ships. Are you running low on food? I have extra rations if you need them. And there is a nice asteroid field about an hour from here where you could stretch your legs, or tentacles, or whatever you folks use for walking." By the 3rd day, Admiral Zethkar was getting reports from all over his fleet. Human ships were stopping to chat with his captains. They were offering everything from tour guides to restaurant recommendations. One human had even given a Veltheran captain the recipe for chocolate chip cookies. "Sir," reported Commander Grix from the destroyer Swift Death, "a human merchant just sold us coffee at cost. When I told him we were here to invade his planet, he wished us luck and said he hoped we would visit the art museums while we were here." Admiral Zethkar was beginning to understand why the Galactic Assembly was so frustrated with humans. They simply did not behave like any other species. Normal people, when faced with an invasion fleet, would either fight or surrender. Humans offered snacks and sightseeing advice. On the 4th day, Admiral Zethkar received a formal communication from Earth's government. Finally, he thought, an official response to his invasion. The message was from Dr. Jung Min Seo of the Department of Alien Relations. She appeared on his screen sitting behind a neat desk with a cup of tea. "Good morning, Admiral," she said pleasantly. I understand you are here about the war declaration. I apologize for the delay in responding. We had to route your complaint through several committees. Government bureaucracy, you know how it is. Finally, Admiral Zethkar muttered, "What is your response?" "Well," Dr. Young said, "we have reviewed the declaration very carefully. We understand that you are upset about some of our recent activities. However, we would like to propose an alternative to war." "What kind of alternative?" "A cultural exchange program. You could send observers to monitor our operations and make sure we follow proper procedures. In return, we could send some of our people to help with any problems you might be having. Win-win, as we say." Admiral Zethkar felt a headache coming on. "Dr. Young, I have 50,000 warships here. This is an invasion force, not a cultural exchange." "Oh, I see the confusion," Dr. Young replied. "You know, we have had several misunderstandings like this recently. Just last month, the Andromedan Collective thought we were trying to take over their trade routes. Turned out they just needed better shipping schedules. We worked it all out over coffee." "I do not want coffee," Admiral Zethkar shouted. "I want surrender or battle." Dr. Young looked genuinely puzzled. "But why? Surrender means somebody loses, and battle means lots of people get hurt. Would it not be better if everybody won?" The Admiral closed the communication and sat back in his chair. Around him, his bridge crew was looking increasingly confused. This was supposed to be a simple invasion. Show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, take control of human space. Instead, they were being offered tour guides and engine repairs. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving another transmission from Captain Lee." "The cargo ship captain again?" "Yes, sir. He says his wife finished making a batch of those chocolate chip cookies the Veltharans like so much. He wants to know if we would like to try some." Admiral Zethkar looked out at the small human cargo ship floating fearlessly next to his massive flagship. Captain Lee was probably in there right now, humming while he packed cookies for an alien invasion fleet. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Zethkar had no idea what to do next. After 2 weeks of committees, paperwork, and careful consideration, Earth's government finally issued their official response to the war declaration. The response came from Ambassador Choi Minho, President of the United Earth Council. He was a calm, soft-spoken man who had spent 30 years in diplomacy. Ambassador Choi sat in his office in New York, looking out at the harbor while he prepared his statement. On his desk was a thick folder containing the Galactic Assembly's 847-page complaint. Next to it was a much thinner folder containing Earth's proposed solution. The quantum fold transmission reached every member world of the Galactic Assembly at the same time. Across hundreds of planets, alien leaders gathered around their communication screens to hear humanity's response to their declaration of war. "Citizens of the Galactic Assembly," Ambassador Choi began, "we have carefully reviewed your declaration of war dated 3 weeks ago. We appreciate the time and effort that went into preparing such a detailed document." On Velthara Prime, Ambassador Crixtal watched with his forearms crossed. His skin was already turning red with anticipation. Finally, the humans would either surrender or reveal their true warlike nature. "After extensive review by our committees and departments," Choi continued, "we respectfully decline to participate in this war." The silence across the galaxy was deafening. Species that communicated by screeching fell silent. Creatures that glowed when excited went dark. Even the telepathic races stopped broadcasting. Ambassador Crixtal's skin went through several color changes before settling on a confused yellow-green. "They decline? You cannot decline a war. That is not how wars work." On screen, Ambassador Choi smiled gently. "We understand this may be an unusual response. However, we believe there are better ways to resolve our differences. Instead of war, we propose a formal partnership program." Elder Zeph, the tree-like alien, creaked in confusion. "A partnership program?" "Yes," Choi replied. "We recognize that our activities have been disruptive to your established systems. This was never our intention. We simply saw problems and tried to help solve them." Senator Crix from the Commerce Guild's many eyes blinked rapidly. "But you cost us trillions in lost profits." "Which brings us to our proposal," Ambassador Choi said. "We would like to establish a galactic cooperation initiative. You can send observers to monitor our activities and ensure we follow proper procedures. In return, we will send trained volunteers to assist with any challenges your worlds might be facing." The alien leaders looked at each other with confusion. This was not how anyone had expected this conversation to go. "We have already identified several areas where we might be of assistance," Choi continued. "For example, we understand the hegemony is experiencing supply chain problems with their mining operations. We understand the Crystalline Collective is facing a population decline. The Verdanian Republic has been dealing with crop failures." Ambassador Crixtall's skin turned bright orange, which indicated extreme confusion. "How do you know about our mining problems?" "That information is classified." Ambassador Choi's expression remained calm. "We have volunteers already working on these issues. Dr. Yoon Sora arrived at the crystalline homeworld yesterday with new fertility treatments. Engineer Jang Wook reached the hegemony mining stations this morning with improved extraction equipment. Farmer Kim Minji is currently helping the Verdanians develop drought-resistant crops." The Galactic Assembly representatives stared at their screens in shock. These humans had somehow sent help to their worlds while their war fleet was still sitting at the edge of the solar system. "Impossible," whispered Gornix, the rock-like being. "How did they get past our defenses?" "They didn't need to get past anything," Ambassador Choi explained. "They just asked for directions and said they were there to help. Most of your security forces assumed they had permission and let them through." On his flagship at the edge of the solar system, Admiral Zethkar was listening to the transmission with growing amazement. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving confirmations from across the galaxy. Human volunteers have somehow reached dozens of our member worlds." "How many?" the Admiral asked. "Current count is 47 worlds, sir, and more reports are coming in every hour." Admiral Zethkar rubbed his temples. 47 worlds. "We declare war on them, and they respond by helping 47 of our worlds." Back on the transmission, Ambassador Choi was still speaking. "We understand that our methods may seem chaotic to your more structured societies. However, we believe that cooperation produces better results than conflict. When we see people who are hungry, we feed them. When we see people who are sick, we heal them. When we see people who need help, we help them." Elder Zeph's branches rustled thoughtfully. "But what about our trade agreements? Our commerce systems? Our carefully balanced political structures?" "We are happy to work within your systems," Ambassador Choi replied. "Our volunteers can operate under your supervision. Our trade can follow your established routes. We just ask that you allow us to continue helping where help is needed." The alien leaders began talking among themselves. Some were angry. Others were confused. A few seemed almost hopeful. Senator Crick spoke up. "What do you want in return for this help?" Ambassador Choi looked genuinely puzzled. "In return, nothing. Helping others is its own reward." "Nothing?" Crick's multiple eyes focused intently on the screen. "You want no payment? No trade agreements? No political concessions?" "We would be happy to establish trade relationships if you are interested," Choi said. "But our help is not conditional on trade. We help because people need help." Ambassador Crixtall's skin had gone through so many color changes that he looked like a rainbow. "This is insane. No species helps others without wanting something in return." "Perhaps that is why your galaxy has so many problems," Ambassador Choi suggested gently. "When everyone is focused on what they can get, fewer people focus on what they can give." Over the next several hours, reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. Human doctors were curing diseases on 12 different worlds. Human engineers were fixing infrastructure problems on 23 planets. Human teachers were sharing knowledge with developing civilizations. Human farmers were ending food shortages. None of them had been officially sent by Earth's government. They had simply heard about problems and decided to help. Some had traveled for weeks to reach worlds that needed assistance. Others had used their own money to buy supplies and equipment. The most incredible part was that they were not trying to take over or establish human colonies. They just fixed the problems and prepared to leave. Many of them refused payment or rewards. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, engineer Jang Wook had increased production by 300% and was already packing his tools to leave. When the hegemony officials tried to pay him, he suggested they use the money to build schools for the miners' children instead. On the agricultural world of New Eden, farmer Kim Minji had developed crops that could grow in the harsh climate. She left detailed instructions and enough seeds to plant the entire planet. When they asked her to stay and supervise, she said she had heard about drought problems on another world and needed to go help there. Dr. Yoon Sora was already preparing to leave the crystalline homeworld after solving their population crisis. She had trained local doctors to continue her work and was planning to visit other worlds that needed medical assistance. Admiral Zethkar sat in his command chair, staring at the reports flooding his screens. His invasion fleet was still sitting at the edge of the solar system, waiting for orders that no longer made sense. "Sir," his tactical officer asked, "what are our orders?" The admiral looked out at the peaceful human cargo ship still offering snacks and tour guides to his captains. "I have no idea," he admitted. "How do you invade a species that responds to war declarations by solving your problems?" 6 months later, the Great Crystal Hall on Velthara Prime was filled with aliens again. But this time, instead of angry shouts and demands for war, there was laughter and friendly conversation. The Galactic Assembly was meeting for the first time since humans had politely declined to participate in their war. Ambassador Krixtal stood at the same podium where he had declared war on humanity. His skin was a peaceful blue color, which meant he was happy and relaxed. This was a dramatic change from the angry red he had been 6 months ago. "Friends and fellow beings," he began, "we are gathered here today for the first annual Human Appreciation Day." The crowd erupted in cheers. Aliens who had been screaming for human blood just 6 months ago were now wearing "I Humans" buttons and holding signs that said, "Thank you, Earth." "Let us review what has happened since our last meeting," Krixtal continued. "The hegemony's mining operations are now the most efficient in the galaxy, thanks to human engineering. Our production has increased by 400%, and we are making more profit than ever before." Gornix, the rock-like being, nodded enthusiastically. And the human engineer, Jang Wook, refused to take any payment. Instead, he suggested we use the extra profits to improve working conditions for our miners. Productivity went up another 50% when the workers became happier. Elder Zeph's branches rustled with pleasure. The Crystalline Collective is experiencing what their government calls a baby boom. Dr. Yoon Sora's fertility treatments have given them hope for the future. Their entire civilization is celebrating. A small crystalline being near the front of the hall sparkled with happiness. "Our birth rate increased by 300%. For the first time in 50 years, we have more births than deaths. Dr. Yoon even stayed to help us set up better childcare systems." Senator Crix from the Commerce Guild spoke next. All of his eyes were focused on a data pad showing trade figures. Human trade routes have increased commerce throughout the galaxy by 250%. Instead of disrupting our markets, they have created entirely new ones. Everyone is making more money. Even better, added Ambassador Krixtal, they have established the Galactic Fair Trade Certification Program. Now everyone knows they are getting good deals and quality products. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. Vorth, the jellyfish-like alien who had delivered the original war declaration, floated forward. "I must admit, when I first met Dr. Park at the Communications Center, I thought humans were simply naive. But they have taught us something important about efficiency." "What is that?" asked someone from the crowd. "It turns out that helping people is much faster than exploiting them," Vorth explained. "When the Verdanian Republic was buying food from us at high prices, they could barely afford enough to survive. Now that they grow their own food with human agricultural techniques, they have extra money to buy manufactured goods from us. We make more profit selling them tools and equipment than we ever made selling them food." The crowd murmured in agreement. Similar stories were being repeated all across the galaxy. Worlds that humans had helped were now thriving trading partners instead of desperate customers. A tall, thin alien with too many eyes stood up. This was Senator Crix's assistant who had been tracking human activities across the galaxy. "I have prepared a report on human volunteer activities over the past 6 months," she announced. "Please share it with us," Krixtal said. Humans have provided medical assistance to 127 worlds, ending or controlling 23 different diseases. They have shared agricultural techniques with 89 civilizations, ending food shortages on 34 planets. They have provided engineering support to 156 different projects, improving infrastructure across 78 star systems. The numbers were impressive, but the alien continued. They have established 45 new trade routes, created 67 cultural exchange programs, and mediated peaceful solutions to 12 different conflicts. Total economic benefit to Galactic Assembly members, approximately 847 trillion standard credits. The hall fell silent. That was more money than most civilizations saw in a century. "And the cost?" asked Elder Zeph. "0, the assistant replied. Humans have refused payment for all services. They request only that we allow them to continue helping where help is needed. Admiral Zethkar, who had flown in specifically for this meeting, stood up in the back of the hall. His war fleet had been converted into a humanitarian convoy after spending 2 weeks at the edge of the solar system accepting cookies and coffee from human cargo. "Pilots, I have something to add," the admiral said. "When I was preparing to invade Earth, my intelligence reports described humans as a warlike, aggressive species. I was completely wrong. What did you discover?" asked Krixtal. "Humans are warlike," Admiral Zethkar admitted. "But they do not wage war against people. They wage war against problems. They see hunger and they fight it with food. They see disease and they fight it with medicine. They see ignorance and they fight it with education." The admiral paused, remembering his conversations with Captain Li Hyun and the other humans he had met. "I realized something during those 2 weeks at the edge of their system," he continued. "We were angry at humans for disrupting our way of life. But our way of life was built on other people's suffering. When humans ended that suffering, they ended our profits, and we declared war on them for it." The uncomfortable silence fell over the hall. Many of the aliens present were beginning to understand the same thing. "But here is what amazes me most about humans," Admiral Zethkar said. "When we declared war on them for helping people, their response was to help more people, including us." He gestured to the crowd around him. "Look around this hall. Every species here is healthier, wealthier, and happier than they were 6 months ago. And it is all because humans refused to fight us and chose to help us instead." Ambassador Krixtal nodded slowly. "This brings us to today's vote. All in favor of formally welcoming humanity as full members of the Galactic Assembly." The vote was unanimous. 400 species that had declared war on humanity 6 months ago now voted to make them equal partners in galactic civilization. As the meeting ended and aliens began to leave, many of them were making plans. The hegemony wanted to establish a human university on their home world. The Crystalline Collective was planning a memorial to Dr. Yoon Sora. The Verdanian Republic was hosting a harvest festival in honor of farmer Kim Minji. Meanwhile, on Earth, the whole affair was already being forgotten. History books would record it as the time some aliens were upset about us being nice. Most humans had no idea it had even happened. Captain Kim Jun was still having coffee in his Seoul cafe, reading the morning news. The biggest story was about a new partnership between Earth and the Galactic Assembly. Apparently, human volunteers would now have official support for their humanitarian missions across the galaxy. The second biggest story was about his daughter, who had just graduated from medical school and was planning to volunteer at a hospital on a distant world. Kim Jun smiled as he read. He was proud of his daughter for wanting to help others. It never occurred to him that 6 months ago, aliens had declared war on humanity for exactly this kind of helpfulness. He finished his coffee and checked his watch. He was meeting his elderly neighbor for lunch. The old man had been feeling much better lately, ever since Kim Jun had started visiting him regularly. Small acts of kindness, he believed, were what made life worth living. He had no way of knowing that this simple philosophy had just conquered the galaxy without firing a single shot. Across the stars, 400 alien civilizations were learning the same lesson. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is someone who genuinely wants to help.